Hey, how's it going today, guys? This is Brandon with the Football Frame of Mind podcast. Man, we have got some big college football news coming out today. Quite a bit of good news. We're going to try to see if we can touch on all that in a short amount of time, but it's mainly to do with the Pac-12 conference. So as everybody's been knowing, there's been controversy about the Pac-12, especially over the last year or so, because we've had a lot of talks of conference teams wanting to leave. Obviously, we know that after this upcoming season, USC and UCLA are going to depart for the Big Ten. There were plenty of rumors about other teams from this conference planning to leave, and as of yesterday, we have breaking news that has been confirmed that the University of Oregon, as well as the University of Washington, have also confirmed they will be leaving the Pac-12 after the 23-24 season to also join the Big Ten along with USC and UCLA. So it was already bad enough that you were going to lose your two cornerstone teams that made the Pac-12 really different. But now you lose another two 4-star, 5-star programs to leave for the Big Ten as well. And I mean, if we look at it from the Big Ten point of view, you're already going to a conference that includes teams like, let's just list down the names. We'll go Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Maryland. We've got Michigan State, Michigan, Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern, Rutgers, Wisconsin, Purdue, Penn State, and Ohio State. Now you're going to turn around and add four powerhouse teams, USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington. We already thought that the Big Ten was gearing up to try to be a super conference with just the addition of the Trojans and the Bruins, but now you're adding the Ducks and the Huskies to a conference that, man, that's a super conference. But the crazy thing about this, and as big of news as this isn't even all of the news, because we have more big news coming out of the Pac-12. We have an additional three teams announcing that they are departing from the Pac-12. Arizona State, and the University of Utah have also confirmed after the 23-24 season, they will be joining Colorado and joining the Big 12. Another four teams leaving the Pac-12 for the Big 12. And if we're talking about the Big 12, I mean, let's check out the current teams right now. You've got West Virginia, you've got Iowa State, you've got Kansas State, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU. Now, going into this season, you're getting four new teams with the University of Cincinnati, the University of Houston, University of Central Florida, and BYU are going to be there as of this season. But now you're adding an extra four teams on top of that with Utah, Colorado, Arizona State. That's insane. But the crazy thing is, on top of all of that news, that's not even the craziest part. So we start out the Pac-12 having that amount of teams. Well, now, as of right now, following that breaking news, I mean, you're only left with four teams left. And they're not going to say they're not good schools, but they're not holding the same stature as the other eight that we spoke about. And those teams are going to be Washington State, Oregon State, Stanford, and the University of California. There are plenty of scenarios that could follow, especially something crazy like that happen. I mean, you could have the whole conference liquidate with them leaving and figuring something else out. From what I'm hearing from my sources, and reports are saying that there could possibly be a merger with the Mountain West Conference. Whether that meaning that the four Pac-12 teams get absorbed into the Mountain West, or if the Mountain West buys the rights to the Pac-12 and they keep the name, I'm not sure. But, I mean, if we just look at some of these Mountain West Conference teams, let's just go down the list. We've got teams along the lines of Boise State, Air Force, Wyoming, Utah State, Colorado State, University of New Mexico, Fresno State, San Jose State, San Diego State, UNLV, University of Hawaii, and University of Nevada. Then you're thinking you're going to add those four new teams of Oregon State, Stanford, Washington State, and Cal. Now, I mean, the crazy thing about the Mountain West, they signed a 6-year deal in 2020. So, I mean, if they were to get liquidated and join this conference, they would only be tied to them for at least another, after this season, 2 years. 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to leave in that scenario because, I mean, you got to think the revenue and the funds they're going to be getting from that conference are going to be substantially less than the funds they were going to be getting from a bigger Pac-12 conference at that time. So, I mean, if in the scenario that this happens to go down like that, 9 times out of 10, these 4 teams are probably going to be going elsewhere. But, man, if we just look at it from just a college football perspective, man, this could be disastrous. We could be moving towards moving towards where there could just be like 3, maybe 4 big conferences, even if that. What if 10 years from now we're just looking at a big Big Ten and a big SEC? We don't necessarily know. But I mean, for the time being, like I'm very interested to see what the Big 12, or I guess now they'd be the Big 16. I don't know. I think that really is interesting. I already was really high on them getting Colorado, but Utah is a perennial, not gonna say a powerhouse, but they're very consistent. They're very tough. They always have really good and talented players, and I think it'll be a really good change of scenery for them as well as Arizona State. For the Big Ten, I honestly and truthfully, it just seems like a very jumbled conference. Obviously, you got some very big names. Like if we just going off of big names again, we're talking about Ohio State, Penn State. You've got Michigan. I mean, then you're adding USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington. Man, I mean, yeah, if we're playing NCAA football 14 or we're just playing a dynasty mode, then yeah, this seems like a really cool and fun idea. But I mean, I don't know how all that's going to play out in the grand scheme or the longer scheme of things, man. It just seems like there's too much going on. And I don't know if it's going to really benefit college football. I mean, it probably benefits the Big Ten because, I mean, they're going to probably make a lot more money with all these other teams, and it's probably going to help them with TV deals or anything else like that. But, man, like I just don't know long term how this is going to affect other conferences because there's already rumors of certain teams from the ACC are looking to branch out and leave as well. So who says that maybe the Big Ten doesn't try to go out and try to grab some of these other teams? I mean, and you got to look at the SEC. The SEC is probably the most geographically sound conference besides the ACC, speaking that they're sticking to the southeastern part of the country. They're not going to California and Oregon, Washington trying to recruit teams. They want to stay geographically sound, kind of like how the ACC is, how they're mainly on the East Coast and like the East-South part of the country. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, I'm not sure if this is going to benefit college football, and I don't think anybody else really knows, especially with NIL money and all this transfer portal stuff that's still pretty crazy and Wild West. I mean, it could mean anything. But I think for a lot of these teams, it could really benefit them as well. The real sad part about it is the Pac-12 because, I mean, realistically speaking, who's to say that, I mean, what happens if they liquidate with the Mountain West? Do they, obviously 2 years goes by, do they leave? And what happens to the Mountain West? Like, the Pac-12 is probably gone altogether. Do we end up getting rid of these group of 5 conferences? And are all these other small schools stuck having to join Power 5 conferences where they really aren't going to get a fair opportunity? That's what I'm afraid of is going to happen. I'm hoping that obviously there are going to be some really overpowered Power 5 conferences, but I'm hoping it doesn't affect the smaller conferences like, say, a Mountain West, or let's say like a Sun Belt, or things like that, like, or the American or the MAC conference, like teams like conferences like that. Obviously, they're not going to hold the same valor and stature as like these SEC teams, these Pac-12 teams. But I mean, they're still important too. They're still important to college football. I mean, all teams are important to college football, but I mean, only time's going to be able to tell if this is really going to be good for the game and the players, or is this going to put a hindrance on college football, and are we going to be seeing things transfer and start becoming more and more like the pro game? And I really hope that's not the case because college football is its own entity. It's so much different than the pro game, but obviously with NIL and transfer portal, I mean, it kind of resembles NFL free agency. But I mean, if we're just talking about what's going on, it's sad to see the Pac-12 kind of feel like it's falling apart right before our eyes. I thought it maybe not hold the same stature as the Big Ten of the SEC because I feel like the SEC is obviously the best conference in college football. But I mean, it is sad to see them start to fall apart like that. Like I said before, I am really happy to see some of these teams get to go compete elsewhere against like teams in the Big 12. I'm really excited to see what the Big 12 turns into. I was already excited with them getting Cincinnati, Houston, UCF, and BYU But now you turn around, obviously you get Colorado, which I was really happy about. Utah's a big name, and those Arizona teams could really, maybe that move could really help them establish themselves and get better recruits and maybe get better coaches and things of that nature. Like moves like that, I'm not upset with, because a good change of scenery for those teams could really turn everything around for them. This could propel Utah to they could end up being a perennial Big 12 champion. They're really good. And I mean, I don't think these moves are directly going to affect the SEC. Obviously, after this season, all they're going to get is Texas and Oklahoma. And I think that in itself is a really good fit. I'm hoping that they don't really look to expand anymore, because I really don't think they need to expand anymore. I think that their brand is the best brand in college football. I don't think you need to build on that anymore. I think it's perfectly fine like that, adding those two teams. So, I mean, I guess we'll see how things play out after this season. We'll see if there's any other teams on the move. We'll see if the Pac-12 is going to liquidate altogether, or maybe they're going to combine and merger with the Mountain West. We're going to see, how these teams play out this year with their last year in the Pac-12. And we'll see next year, how they transition. Will they have a smooth transition to the Big Ten, or will they have some growing pains? And are they going to have to get adjusted to the Midwest and some of those recruits and stuff? I mean, overall, I think it's really going to help people with recruits. Transfer portal, I mean, I can't see it really hurting any of these teams at all. Maybe besides teams like the four teams that are left in the Pac-12 after all this is said and done. But I mean, as a whole, I think it's going to help them with recruits. I think it's going to help them with the transfer portal. Change of scenery never hurts. It really doesn't. It gives you a fresh new look, especially when there's guys looking to come to your school and play for your school. I mean, I don't think it hurts anybody, like I said, but besides those four teams. We'll see what happens, and if we have any other big news, we would definitely touch base on that. But for right now, I mean, just wanted to bring that to you guys' attention. I thought that was really crazy that, I mean, one of these situations could have been a video or an audio all in itself. But, I mean, the fact that you have 8 teams leaving this conference, and just how crazy it all just played out, man. I'm just really interested to see how it goes. But you guys just make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Who knows, even by the time this audio or video drops, maybe we'll have some more big news. But yeah, we will be back with you guys soon, and just stay along for the ride. This is Brandon signing off.